everybody. Welcome to Ecstasy Crafts for our online class for our Magic Gnome card. I hope everybody's ready to rock and roll today. I do want to mention that the one thing extra you're going to want before we actually start is just a scrap piece of paper, just to do some stamping on initially before we stamp on the acetate for this card. Before we get started, I want to show everybody the new up-and-coming card that's available for our next class. It's quite exciting. It's called Snow Day. It's just
Today's a snow day, actually.
Today is a bit of a snow day, isn't it, Emily? Yes.
Well,
Yep.
no, it's a literal snow day.
Oh, for the schools. Yeah, the schools in our area are all, the schools are open, but the buses didn't run. They haven't run for a couple of days. We've been having lousy weather here in Canada. We're going to learn a little bit of inking technique on this card. I'll show you how to get some rolling hills in your backgrounds if you want to learn that. And then this card is so cute and so fun, and possibilities are just endless with it. You can close it like this and have it. It's meant to be sat down. It's harder to see it this way, but it's meant to sit flat, and then you can see your 3Ds like this. So, hi June, how are you? Glad to see you today. Isn't that a cute card? I quite like it. So in this kit, you are going to get 2 stamp and die sets. One includes the penguin set, and one has the snowman set. So you're going to get both of those, as well as everything else that you need other than your basic needs. You'll supply your own coloring techniques and stuff, but you're going to get this beautiful parchment paper, your blue cardstock, white cardstock, and then your coloring will be of your choice. So this class will run in-house, meaning here in Shannonville, on Wednesday, February 21st at 1 p.m. And it will run 1 week later, Wednesday, February 28th at 1 p.m. for the online class. So it is now up and on the website. If anybody wants to purchase the kit, it's ready to go. Again, the dates are Wednesday, February 21st for here in our Shannonville location. And the other date is Wednesday, February 28th for our online class. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to put away this cute little card here. And we're going to get started with our Magic Gnome card. So this card is really cute, and it's a little baffling at first. So we've got a very plain colored gnome, and then as you pull this up, the color comes into sight. Once you learn how to do this, you're going to want to make a whole bunch of them because they're so fun and so cute. Hi, Judy. Welcome. So that's our finished card here. And in your kit, you will have your gnome stamp set, as well as your layered heart stencil. Sorry, drawn a blank there. So those came in your set, as well as your cardstock. That came as well. So what we're going to cut, I always like to cut everything out first and then tuck it off to the side. So when you're ready to go and do your assembly, you have it all done. So you should have 2 pieces of white cardstock. Hi, Bonnie. Nice to see you. So this is a 5x7 card in a portfolio view, meaning so it's upright. So you want to cut a piece of cardstock 10 inches by 7 inches, and then you will score it on the 5-inch mark so that we have our card base. And then you need, with your other white cardstock, you will cut a piece of white cardstock 5x7, And then a second piece, and your second piece will be 4 5/8 by 6 3/4. And then with your black cardstock, we need, oh, sorry, I missed this because it's clear. Your acetate, you need a 5 by 7 piece of clear acetate. Again, that's hard to see on the camera. So 5 by 7. And then with your black cardstock, it measures 5 by 7 around the outer edge. And then take whatever die you have in your stash, or I used a Lisa Horton die. It's in the instructions. And you want to cut a window in here. And you want it offset, so you want a larger space. This will be the top of your card. As you can see here, it's larger here and smaller down here. So you do want it offset. That's on purpose, and you'll see why. It's when you pull the magic card out, it keeps this piece from popping out every time you pull it up. Just gives you a little bit so you can hold it in place. Otherwise, you fight with it, trying to tuck it back into the card again. And as you can see, I've stenciled. Can you see that on the camera? Yes, you can. So I've used Lisa Horton's interference inks on here. You can use whatever you want with the stencil to decorate the front, but we'll do that later. So those are your pieces, your core pieces that you need. And to start off, the first thing we need is your 5 by 7 acetate and your 5 by 7. There we go. Oh, actually, and you know what? I trimmed that down. So you do want the white. Now I did trim this down. I'm not sure why I did it at the time I did. I usually trim it after the fact. But what we want to do is take those two pieces. So if you are just starting, cut your acetate 5 by 7. So, and you're going to need your stamping platform and some masking tape. And what we're going to do is we are going to, and you want masking tape because the magnets aren't going to cut it completely. We need some extra strength in there. And we're just going to fasten down your white cardstock. You don't need to add those extra. I might even take them off. And then what you want to do is you want to line your acetate up with the bottom of your 5 by 7. Make sure it's lined up. In my case, I'm just going to eyeball it here. And you want to tape your acetate down and tape it well, because when you stamp on acetate, it tends to pull back up. So I'm going to add some more to this. I've got that crooked a little bit, and it's really important that you line these up properly. It will influence the final outlook of your card if you don't have them lined up properly. The most important part to line up is the bottom, because it's going to influence how it sits. If both of these are level and lined up across the bottom, it's going to work out for you. We can always trim both of these down a little bit because the outer edges will be hidden eventually once we assemble the card. So we're going to stamp on the acetate first, and then without removing the stamp or the cardstock, because we want to stamp the cardstock in the exact same location we did on the acetate. Now, if you have not used your stamp yet, I highly recommend that you stamp it several times on a scrap piece of paper, because it's with the StazOn solvent ink, it tends to not stamp very well the first time. So it takes a few tries to get it. Sometimes you get lucky and it does work. And sometimes it gives you a hard time. Now, one of the things I did with this to help line my gnome up is put your frame over top of it and see how I've got it a little bit off to the one side. So I'm going to adjust it. It'll just help you with your placement a bit. There we go. Hi, Carol. Hi, Wendy. Is there any images that work better than others for this technique, or will any work? Wendy, anything will work. It doesn't really matter. I was just looking for sort of a bit of a Valentine theme, and the gnomes are really popular for a lot of people. And so I chose that. It doesn't really matter. It depends on how much work you want to put into your coloring. So if you love to do a lot of intricate coloring, by all means go for it, because you do color the whole image in. So it's up to you. Janet, I think I missed you. I'm sorry. Welcome. So it doesn't really matter. You can use this. Once you learn the technique, you can use it for anything you want. It's you'll see once we get going on it. It is all about how much work you want to put into it. So, okay, so I've got my image in there. And then one of the things, actually, I should have mentioned that too. Get a poker, or if you have a nice slim ruler, we're going to slide that in and hold that acetate down. Even though we've taped it, can you hear that sticking? And it will try to pull that acetate up when you pull it off. I'm going to ink my stamp up really good. I'm gonna try, sorry, my arm's in the way. So you can see it didn't stamp great that first time. So I'm going to stamp it again. As you're going, if you have to stamp again, double check your tape. I had one piece try to peel up on me. Lots of good pressure on that. And even though I had that taped, it's lifted off. It pulled the tape and everything up. So I'm going to go with what I have. It's a little faded out here. It's not the end of the world, but definitely stamp off your stamp before you stamp onto your acetate. So then we're going to peel this up, but we want the cardstock to remain on. And then we're going to stamp it again. This time onto our cardstock. And I'm going to stamp that again. It's a little pale still. Just put your acetate stamped one off to the side, because that's going to go off to the side till the very end now. There we go. That looks great. So a nice full stamp in there, nice and bright. And then just to show you guys, in the end, when this lines up, you're not even really going to notice so much that it's a little faded. But if you do what I suggested, where you stamp off on a piece of paper, you might have to do it 5 or 6 times, but do it. I was watching some tips on it because I had some issues in our in-house class with the stamping. So I was looking up some stuff, and they do recommend that you stamp off. It's the stays-on solvent ink that causes a lot of grief with this, and the acetate. So stamp off a lot until you're getting really good coverage with that ink, and then you're good to go. So the next step we're going to do is color in our gnome. This is the only problem with putting a lot of tape on. It takes you a while to get it off again. This is a Studio Light tape that I'm using, and I absolutely love it. You can die cut with it. You can do so many things with it, and it does not tear your cardstock. Oh, saying that, it took a little wee piece off. It's never done that before. It cursed me. It does work really well. It's my favorite out of all the different ones we have. All right. No Wi-Fi? Okay. Apparently we lost Wi-Fi there for a minute, but we're back. All right. So for myself, I used alcohol markers to color my little gnome. You can use whatever you are comfortable with. It does not matter. I'm going to make sure that I have my little circle for his shiny bit on his nose. Switch over to the tip. I find I get less bleed with the markers if I use the small tip, but I have a hard time because I prefer the brush end. You can color this cute little gnome any colors you want. I wanted them to be nice and bright for spring. I thought these little heart balloons looked more like flowers for some, well, and They've got leaves. I like to come back after and go over a few places just to put in some shadowing with my colors. Do another yellow one. One of the things you can do too is you can come in and add some features and personalize this a little bit. I'm going to put some checkerboard in my patches on his hat just to make him look a little cuter. Just reading some messages. Sorry, Wendy, I'm trying to read your message here. I guess that avoiding a sticky coloring tool would be necessary so it won't stick to the acetate. Yeah, one of the things I like to use is a bursing tool or something like that, or a pick to hold it. I think that's what you're asking or saying there. I've just got a little gel pen. I'm just going to come in. Just to dress it up a little bit more. You could add anything you wanted in there. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail just because of time constraints today. I'm going to give him little purple feet as well. You could give him a red beard. You can come back in with your other colors and markers and add more shading to it. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and not spend a lot of time on my coloring so I can keep going. But I like the bright colors. It makes, on days like today, it makes me want spring more. It won't be too far down the road now, so that's a good thing. Now, I'm just going to refer to my instructions again. While people are finishing up what they're doing. All right. We're going to stencil our black border next. And put him off to the side. Again, keep in mind the wider piece is the top of your card. So when you do your stenciling, your hearts are facing the right way. If you care about that, you may want to do, you know, a mishmash all around. It doesn't matter, whatever you choose to do. I did say I was using, I thought I did anyway, using Lisa Horton's Interference inks because it's a black background. I've chose to use pink champagne, and I'm bringing in a secondary color here, peacock tails. So I'm going to start with my pink champagne. Look how bright that is. I love that. And I'm just going to lay this across and line it up as best I can. You can tape it down if you want. I'm not going to be that concerned with it. When I did it initially, I actually left my paper whole before I die cut, and I stenciled the whole piece, and then I die cut it after. But it doesn't really work very well for that when you are doing a live like this. So I had to cut all my stuff out ahead of time just to keep up. Just shift that around. This is why, for this particular one, why I like to leave it loose, because then I can pick and choose where I'm going to go. I'm going to come in with the smaller ones after, so I don't want it to fill the entire space with all the big ones. And then I can also manipulate them a little bit to fit the space. I'll leave that little half one. And because that fit right there, I'm going to take that one too. So the Interference ink, if there's anyone out there that isn't familiar with it, it is a blended ink of dye and pigment, and it has mica in it, which gives you a gorgeous sheen. And when you put it on a black or dark colored cardstock, it gives you one color. And when you add it on a white paper, it gives you a different one. So on the white, you would get the pink. And as you can see on the black, we're getting this champagne color. Almost has a green tinge to it. And you can't really see it on camera, but if you shift it around, you can see hints of the pink in there. Now I'm going to come in, use my peacock. I'm going to use this with the smaller hearts and just fill in some gaps. And I'm not even going to worry if they overlap a little bit. That's okay. no right or wrong to this. I do sort of try to fit with the stencil in here to get as many hearts on my stretch as I can. You can be more selective if you have the extra time. Do this side as well. Hey, Lisa. I use solar paste. Oh, that would be really nice, Judy. Definitely. That's a great idea because you'd get a nice texture with it too. Make sure you post your picture when you're done on our Facebook page because I'd love to see it done with the different product. That would be great. Put one more heart here. And then I think I'm good. Got good coverage. If you are using interference ink, remember to go back a couple of days later and just see how much more vibrant your colors become. I'm just going to clean up my hands so I don't get anything else dirty here before I touch anything. All right, so what are we up to next? Done all that on your stamping. So what we're going to do now is we are actually going to take double-sided tape that I may or may not have forgot to bring in here with me. I did. Bear with me for a minute. Oh, wait a minute. No. My little magic gnome brought some in for me. So thank you, Emily. So what we want to do, actually, I did not clean here. We want to fasten your acetate gnome to the front or to the back side of your black frame that you just colored. Just going to dry my surface a little bit. So we're going to fasten that to this, lining up the bottom of your acetate. I'm going to show you. You want to line up the bottom. I'm having a hard time showing this to you. Black background. Can you see? We're going to line up the bottom of this with the bottom of this. And then everything else should fall into place. And normally, if it's sticking out of your edges, trim it down a little bit because it's all going to be hidden as long as it fits within that frame and you've lined up your bottom piece. I was going to say, I lost my tape already. How many of you guys do that? Find something, go to use it, and it's already lost on your desk. When you're gluing this down, I recommend that you when you're taping, or if you're gluing, whichever you're doing, run it as close as you can to the inside edge of your frame. That way you won't have any lifting because you're going to have a moving part in there. and you don't want it catching. Whenever I'm putting something down like this, I like to just peel my corners up. And that way it gives me a little bit of leeway for taping it down and getting it square before I am ready for it. Now, I also want to make sure I am putting this down in the right direction. So it's got to go this way so that it lines up like this after. And line it up on the bottom. Peel that off. Just like that. I don't care that it didn't cover all that tape because we're going to build that up. So we're lining up nicely. Next, we want to take our colored piece and we're going to, I think I folded that the wrong way. And again, you can glue it or you can double-sided tape it. It doesn't matter. And we're going to line that up, lining it up again with the bottom. We can always trim some other stuff, but as long as we consistently line it up on the bottom on both pieces, your lineup should be right. So I'm going to add my tape to that. You always lose things too. I know. The worst part is we have this really nice little, just a little trimmer guillotine. It's fairly big and I lose it all the time and I can't find it anywhere. And it's right in front of me, but I just can't see it. I'm glad I'm not the only crafter that has that problem. And I always like to put a little piece in the center. And that one I take right off. And then again, I'm going to do my corners again. Because I find if I try to do it freehand and I haven't done the corners, it goes down crooked. And then I have to start again. And that's frustrating. So I forget where I saw this little trick. I was probably watching a video somewhere. And I have used it ever since, and I love it. It's not foolproof entirely. But it pretty much is. So again, lining it up with the bottom. That looks pretty darn good. So there we are. I'll test that out again. And we're still lined up. I just continue to line up my bottom piece and we're good to go. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to put foam tape around the outer edge this time of the black frame, but not across the top. We need to keep the top open. So both sides in the bottom, not the top. And you're going to double it up because we need that extra depth. You can use white if you don't have the black strips. By all means, use the white. If you do use the white, because that's all you have, you can take a Sharpie after, and that is what I did on this one here, my sample card. You can actually see right in there where I got some black on the white cardstock background. But the black Sharpie will color in on the edges of your white foam. Works great if you don't have black foam. And I've lost my scissors. There they are. Just need to trim this down a little bit. And when you're running the foam tape up the sides, you want to take it up almost absolutely as far up to the top as you can go. I'm going to move it down so I can see where I'm putting my foam. I know it's harder for you guys to see, but okay, so that's 3 sides. And then what I'm going to do is pull the topper strip off on all 3. Like that. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my second layer. This is where it gets really sticky. One more. All right. I like to just make sure that it's stuck good. Now see, I don't know if you can see what's happened there. It's come off of it a little bit from the one below, so I'm going to try and see if I can peel it up and reposition it. Oh, it's not liking me doing it though. No, I think it's stuck there. So what I may have to do is the last piece that we're going to do, I may have to trim it a little bit smaller so it'll get past that. There's always a way around it. It's not the end of the world. I am going to add another little tiny piece of foam right in there because it did lift a little bit when I was trying to fix that. Add a little piece there. This stuff is so nice to use when you're just dealing with one layer, but when you bring in this second layer, it's testy. It's my only word for it. It becomes very testy. There we go. Be done with that. There we go. All right. I do have to bring this off camera just ever so slightly so I can line this up, because now we're going to line up the bottom, and I need to be over top of it to see better and to make sure that my image is lining up with it, top and bottom, meaning the acetate and the cardstock in the back. So that's pretty darn good. So if you just take your time, and as I said, keep that bottom part lined up. You can see I'm over a bit here on my base card, and maybe a little bit. It's not too bad there. I could take an X-Acto knife and trim that up. I'll do it later, but don't fret about that. You can, like I said, you can always use an X-Acto knife and trim it up. We're human. We're, you know, stuff happens. So there we have the card base finished. Now we have to make it magic. So the magic comes in with your last piece of cardstock. And then I know in the instructions, I have listed Savasin punch. This one is the, what do they call it? There's two different punches. There's a whale tail, and this one I think is like a file tab, I think it's called, or a folder tab. So if you don't have one, don't stress about that. Just cut yourself a little tab. It doesn't even have to have these extra pieces on it. You just need a tab, cardboard tab. I'm pretty sure everybody got a small piece of a colored cardstock in their package. And this is, and I wouldn't make it 3/4 of an inch, because I find this tab, when it goes all the way in, is a little short. But if you do it 3/4 of an inch, you can always trim it up after. And what we're going to do is I am going to flip these over because they're only color on one side. And I am going to take my double-sided tape. Actually, I'm going to go with my thin stuff. I'm going to use a thin one for this. So I'm going to put tape on the very bottom of both. And then I'm just on one of them, right up near the very top of that tab, just on one, put the tape. And then you're just going to eyeball it, take the tape off one, the bottom of one. And I'm just going to look at that and say, yeah, that looks pretty close to being center. You can measure it if you want and stick it down. And then pull that off and pull this one off. Then we're going to line them both up and stick it down in place. I made it a color tab just because it stands out and will make, if you're giving this card to someone, if you don't write, pull on it. To me, the color, that tab sticking out just yells, do something with me, pull me, whatever you want. There you go. So that gives you color on both sides. It's crooked. I don't care. You can measure it. It's hard on camera to get things. Actually, it doesn't look as crooked. It does now. But anyway, what this is going to fit in this gap in between your two. And I may have to trim it because of that problem with the double-sided tape. They're the foam tabs, I mean. You can see how I thought that that was a little short for that. It still works fine. And that makes your card magic. And then if you leave that bigger there, that keeps that from falling out. It just gives you some leeway. When it's just a little wee, it pulls out all the time. This is actually moving fairly well. I'll probably trim it up a little bit later. It's grabbing right about there, which I think is right about where my foam tabs went a little wonky. So I'll trim a little bit off one side. Guillotine's right here. I'll do it. Just take a little bit off that. And this part of the tabs will grab a little bit, mostly on the back, I find there. It doesn't take a whole lot to wiggle it to get it to go in. Oh. Now it's really grabbing on me. And you will have to play around with it. It's because of my foam tabs went funny. So if that happens to you, I highly recommend rip that tab that whole strip right off and start from scratch again on that one side where the foam tab went wonky on me, because that's just causing me some grief. I will trim this down some more, but it's grabbing it and it's sticky. I can feel it. It's grabbing the tape on the sticky part of that foam tab. But that's the base of your card. And then you've got sentiments in there. I just did a really basic. You can use any back you want. I did have a die cut here, a little banner one, and stamping the sentiment onto that. On my sample card, I did use embossing powder. I'm just going to stamp it today. You can do this however you want. You can do it in another color. And then I dressed it up with some ribbon behind it that I just cut basic. You can put it at the bottom, totally up to you. I added some nice elements with some enamel dots. These are Marianne dots. I really like these. They come in a really nice variety of colors, and you get, they come in multiple colors as well. And you get several different sizes of them. Great deal, and do a lot of adds to and supplementing your cards. You could decorate it however you want. You could add some more stuff if you wanted, even on your inside before you put it together. If you wanted to add some bling, this was my original one. This one I did where I showed you how I added the little gel lines with the gel pen, the lines to the patches on his hat, just to dress it up a little bit more and make it a little bit more unique, more your own. But that's the gist of it. And as I'll show you, actually, I'm going to stamp, if I can find my stamp lying around here. I'm going to stamp this and show you how I put that in, and with the ribbon underneath it. I'm looking for my stamping platform that I've lost. Usually what I do, if I'm going to stamp something like this, I will stamp it on a larger piece and then die cut it out. But for the sake of the show today, I like to have, I don't like to die cut while I'm doing the shows. It takes up too much time, unless of course I'm showing you how to do some die cutting. And doing it on a larger piece as well, it makes everything easier to, you're not fighting with it like I just was to get it to stick in place. Go. This is my favorite ink, Lisa Horton's Solid Black Cloud 9 ink. You can use alcohol or watercolor with these, with this ink. Now this is all her inks are Cloud 9, but this is called Solid Black, and you get one stamp coverage with this. You don't have to go back in. So when you stamp it, look at how clear that is. I swear by this. And I don't know how well you can see, but there is no ink left on that stamp. Beautiful stuff. If you don't have any, you should order some because it's fabulous. Or come into the store and pick some up. All right. Now, what I like to do for these, when I'm going to put the ribbon in behind it, so what I'll start with, I'll figure out where I want to put it, and then I'll take some of my really thin tape. I'm going to put some, just a little bit in the middle and on the back, just to hold it in place a little bit. Can you? So when this is folded over, because that's all I do with it, I fold it, I trim the ends. I need to get my scissors sharpened. It's a little ragged looking. So I put a little piece of tape in the middle like that. It just saves you fighting with it while you're trying to get everything in place. And then stick it, because it's going to be covered up with your sentiment. And then again, right where that was, I'm going to cover it again, I'm going to put some more double-sided tape on. And then I'm going to figure out where I want that. Just going to gently put it down. This is actually almost too big for this, but I'm committed. So there we go. So it's down, it's in place. I don't have to fight with this anymore. I can fasten that on, but I do want to raise it up. So what I'm going to do is take some thin, this time white foam tabs. And I'm just going to put a strip down each side. Like that. And the reason I put it on each side like that is because now my ribbon will fit right in the middle. Or say you're going to use twine and you want to like double, triple, where you do multiple layers of it, it gets bulky. So if you create a channel with your foam tape, that's going to sit right on each side of that. And everything's going to stay nice and neat and tidy and fit right in the middle of that. Just like that. And that is how we make a magic card. So easy, so much fun, and they're just cool. And it doesn't have to be a gnome. You can make any card for any occasion, and it would be so fun. And there you can see the difference between using the black foam tabs as opposed to the white ones and coloring them in. Not a huge difference. If you don't have them, like I said, a black Sharpie, one of the fat tip ones, and just color it in. I'm sure if I went over it a couple of times, the color would deepen. But now we have two magic gnome cards. And that's it. I hope everybody really enjoyed the class today. And I'd love to see everybody's creations and enjoy this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Awesome. Nice. Okay, don't forget to post your pictures on Facebook. We'll have to do the whole thing again. I put my acetate on backwards twice. Oh, I've done it. I've been there, done that, Judy. I don't know how many times I have put the front of my card on the base backwards and had to start again. It's so frustrating. But we've all been there, all done that. Yeah. I'm glad everybody had a good time. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by the store or message in, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can and help you out with everything. So everybody have a great day. Stay warm, stay safe, and see you in a month. Oh, wait a minute. Before we go, actually, I wanted to show you that card again for the next class. So again, our next card, Snow Day. We're going to start off, backwards, looking like this. We're going to open that up, and there you go. So that is February 21st at Shannonville and February 28th online. $19.99 in Shannonville, $24.99, the same as all our classes. And you'll get 2 stamp and die sets to go with your kit. Everybody have a great day. Bye.